Good afternoon everybody and welcome to the third round of the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship, supported by Everything Simulated. You join us for a 45-minute feature round from Navarra this afternoon as we take the third round on. It's been a topsy-turvy early season here. Last week it was a double pole and a double victory for Kieran Potter, who scored 1 point the previous week, but he looks to be a force to be reckoned with this season. That was, though, in the absence of Sebastian Eskandari, who should be back in the game from this point on, and hopefully will give us a think about. Neither of those two, though, are leading the championship as things stand. Brodie McConkey has accumulated the most points of anybody through the first two rounds of this season, despite a 16th place finish at the first race last week. Jack Soriano's not too far away. Tom Donoghue is in the top three. Then you get Potter, Danny Davison rounding out the top five. Craig Edwards next, ahead of Thomas Sims, Ryan Borg, Anthony Pate, who's the best of the Silvers. Headland Madeline McGee rounds out the top 10. Then you get Sebastian Eskandari, who's only been at one round, although he did win it, and Phil Vella, who's tied on points with him, even though he's been at both rounds so far this season. A lot to look forward to here tonight from Navarra. Myself, Ian O'Leary, and Rhys Gardner in commentary with you tonight. Good to be back alongside you, Rhys, for this one. 45 minutes of a feature round once again at Navarra, which I must say is a strange circuit and a very angular circuit, I think I would describe it as you can see from this track map here. And I wonder how many drivers had to firstly buy the circuit before racing here this week, but also how many have been really getting up to speed with it in practice this week, because it is a circuit that's maybe lesser used than some of the others on this schedule.
Well, you and I can confirm that no driver has had to spend any money on Navarra because it's part of iRacing's base content. And so, it's accessible to everyone with an iRacing subscription. But you are right. It is a strange circuit, particularly the back half. It almost has, in my view, a street circuit-like flow to it. Very hard braking zones into slow corners with short chutes in between them, and almost a couple of right angle switchbacks as well on your way up to that very tight hairpin at the final corner that leads you to the start-finish line. Also turns 1, 2, and 3. Last time we were here was the conclusion of the second to last season of the Formula Ford recruitment series, and that turn certainly produced a lot of drama. That was in slower cars with no downforce. Now we're back in wings and slicks for this one, and looking forward to seeing how the drivers come to grips with those opening turns.
Yeah, to be fair, on that afternoon we did miss out half the circuit also by just going straight on through turn 5 and goes straight down to turn 15, which is I actually really like, but maybe not for these cars. I mean, even in these cars at the moment, using the full layout, we're doing a 1 minute 30 in this qualifying session, so it is a relatively short circuit. A couple of things to bring you up to speed on before we get going here tonight. All driver classes will be reviewed and reclassified if required after this round of the championship, so watch out for that next week. And watch out for who goes well tonight, maybe putting themselves into the gold class if you're currently a silver. And Team Max Boost have picked up yet another driver in Jet Saragi, who was very much in the action last week at Miami. In the end, hasn't finished inside the top 20 yet this season. But then again, Kane Ryder is only 27th in the overall point standings anyway. So it's very easy to have a difficult first couple of rounds, and not too much to read into that. But look at them swarming all over the place here. I mean, they're working together again here as Saragi just pulls wide through turn 5 and into turn 6, drops in behind another couple of teammates, of which there are so many in this series. Max Booster just all over this series at the moment, but I feel like they've come under probably perhaps their most difficult start to the season for a while so far in these first 2 rounds.
Yeah, they haven't really been getting the results that we expected of them. You know, Max Boost has built itself a bit of a reputation over the last couple of seasons as something of a super team. They have a lot of very fast drivers on their books, and they're always looking for more to develop and to help them to grab the titles that they desire. But yeah, you're right, it hasn't quite been the start to the season that the team would likely have wanted. And you mentioned Sebastian Eskandari, his absence from last round quite conspicuous, and you're right, he was supposed to be back for this round, but I don't see him on any of the timing screens, so potentially we're going to be Eskandari-less once again for round number 3.
Yeah, looks like it, doesn't it? And, you know, you only get 1 round dropped, so you've got to be... well, I mean, he's going to lose so many points as a result of that. I mean, missing a 2-race week as a drop is quite hurtful to the points total, so that was already bad enough, even when he had the drop week to save himself. But now that he's missing 2 rounds, well, all of a sudden it's going to become very, very difficult for him to challenge for the championship and retain the title. So I wonder whether we're going to get a 5th different title winner in 5 seasons, and I wonder who indeed it is going to be. Kieran Potter just moves up to 2nd place. He's got pole position in every qualifying session so far this season. I don't think we fully appreciated that because he had such a bad opening round at Spa in that hour-long race, but prior to that he did get pole, and he got pole twice last week. At the moment, Ryan Bell is leading this session by a fair distance, but Potter again is qualifying really well here, and only 2 tenths away from taking the first 4 qualifying sessions of the season.
Yeah, very good grab for Proline Esports there. Kieran Potter, he can certainly do a lap around a circuit in a reasonable enough time. But yeah, he does need to focus on his race results and avoiding problems. You know, I think the majority of the incidents that we've seen in this championship have not necessarily been to driver error. They're more just incidents going wrong. And I think Kieran Potter has been on the receiving end of a few blows that may not necessarily have been his fault. So he is hoping that he might be able to convert his qualifying pace into the result he's looking for. Keeping an eye on Madeline McGee here for Team Max Boost. And speaking of Max Boost, 1 point about Sebastian Eskandari that's been fed to us. Jeez, it looks like a lot of drivers having trouble with the exit of turn 3 in qualifying. But we've received news that Sebastian indeed is still away this week because today is round 2 of this weekend is round 2 of the New Zealand Formula Ford Championship, and Seb won the first round of that. He won the first 2 races, which were his first ever races in the real world outside of karts. So he's had a fantastic start to his real world car racing career, and we certainly wish him all the best. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's hardly a surprise based on what we've seen here in the sim, but good to see that translated into the real world as well, as we go aboard with Ryan Bell now into the final turn. Now, is he really improving at all here? Bell, he's not actually got, no, he's not improving really as he comes over the line. Well, he's not that far away from an improvement, to be fair. Yeah, wow, just about 3, 4, 5 hundredths of a second away from a improvement there as he comes in towards turn 1. Phil Vella moves up to 2nd place, and that's a good time from him. Less than a 10th now, and Bell hasn't improved for the entire time since we joined in the session, about 5 minutes in, and that's got to be a bit of a concern, because while he's not improving, Bell, everybody else is, and he's being caught at the moment.
Yeah, he is indeed trying his best to negotiate the bumps through turns 5 and 6. A lovely flowing corner, but very difficult to get through quickly. And this is the back section I was talking about at the top of the broadcast, this almost street circuit-like section. Keep your eyes on the brake markers on the left, and braking quite late here for this turn. Another flowing right that leads you straight into a braking zone for a tight left-hander. Of course, the circuit is not like this in the real world anymore. The iRacing curse did befall it in some fashion. After iRacing scanned this place, they implemented some layout changes. So this is a bit of history that you're looking at the moment, but looks like every apex was hit. And every acceleration zone was done nicely with minimal oversteer from Ryan Bell. We'll see if he manages to put a gap between himself and that pursuing pack up to the start-finish line. He's looking to beat a 29.9, and across the line he will come to set a 129.8, so he has improved on the pole position time, but looks like Vella and Potter are still shadowing him. A great performance from Vella.
Yeah, it is a good qualified performance at the moment from Phil Vella. Qualified 8th place for the feature race at Spa, the endurance race indeed, the hour-long race at Spa, which is his best performance to the season so far, but this would be by far his best performance. Kieran Potter, though, is going rather quickly as well with a purple third sector. He's taken the first 3 pole positions of the season. He's a bit wide through the final corner. Oh, he slides on the way out of it as well. Does that prevent him from getting pole position here? Or is he going to get there anyway? He's not going to get there. I think he might improve maybe even to second place, but he's not going to... Oh, only just. He's not going to get to first, though. I'm not sure he cost himself a quarter of a second there and therefore lost the pole position, but that was definitely a little bit wide at the final corner. He locks up into turn 3, and that's the end of his session. Potter, for the first time this season, is not going to be on pole.
Oh, that's a shame for Kieran. He was pushing very hard on that particular run, but Navarra has some very subtle difficulties that only really present themselves when you're driving at max pace around this place. This final corner, which is where he went wide, very harsh curb at the apex, and it's an uphill corner, so you can't really see the exit when you turn in. You basically got to put your faith in your own ability and the car's ability to get that front grip and maximize the exit, but a lot of bumps along this circuit as well that I think are playing havoc with a lot of the drivers for the moment. The clock is about to run out in the qualifying session, and this being a single race session, the drivers should be able to complete a lap after the timer ends, as long as they have already started a lap by the time it finishes. So we're going to be seeing those final rafts of times come in a few moments.
Now let's see who can improve here. You can see Saragi and Edwards are not that far away from the end of a lap, but neither of them setting any personal best sectors at the moment at all around it. Actually, Craig Edwards just let Jack Monroe and Shane McGee go past by the looks of things. He's letting a number of people go past. In fact, Chris Little and Tom Donahue have got personal best sectors themselves around the place, but Jack Monroe is going to come towards the line here and complete the session. It's going to be silver class pole position comfortably. Is it going to be a front row start with a slight improvement? I don't think so, no. And there in the background is Tom Donahue again as he comes up towards the line. Is he going to improve at all? He might do. Yep, into 5th. So top 5 for Donahue, who was on the podium last week, if I remember correctly, at Miami. Yeah, it was indeed. This in the second race, a 3rd place finish. Hasn't actually finished lower than 8th this season so far, so he's started off well. Jackie Chung, personal best across the board, stays where he is. Daniel Ackland moves up into 7th place. I think that's going to be the last movement into the top 10.
Very nice improvement from Daniel Ackland. He was sitting, 13th before he set that time down. So that's first out of the Synergy Sim Racing cars that will be starting this one, and ends up getting a bit closer to Jack Monroe for the silver class pole position. But aside from that, looks like quite a close field. 2nd, 3rd and 4th only separated by 0.04 of a second, and the entire top 10 covered by about take Ryan Bell out of the equation, and it's about 0.4.
Yeah, indeed. It's ideal, though, to take him out of the equation, because he has taken pole by nearly a quarter of a second there, which is, as you say, a remarkable gap when you consider the next quarter of a second gets you all the way down outside the top 5. So it's a very good job indeed from Ryan Bell, who will take pole for this round. Ryan Bell is 13th place in the standings currently, was 5th place in the first round, but only scored 28 points last week. Did get a 7th place in the first race, but there's not many points available in that first race. 50 for a victory, 52 if you take the pole position and the fastest lap, but only the top 25 get points in any case, and even by the time you get down into 7th, you're only down to 25 points or so. So, yeah, not many points from last week. Ryan Bell, though, is on the pole here this week in front of Kieran Potter, with Phil Vella third, and Jack Munro, the silver class pole sitter. We'll see whether he gets moved up to gold next week. Tom Donahue and Brodie McConkie are then on row 3. That's third and first place in the championship. Dan Ackland and Kane Ryder, they're on row 4 ahead of Jackson Rihanna and Danny Davison, who round out the top 10. 11th place has gone to Mark Hilly. He's had a quiet start to the season alongside Craig Edwards, one of his championship contenders alongside him when they fought for the title in season 3. Jet Saragi and Chris Farrow on row 7, and Sam Morton and Anthony Bate, who rounds out the top 3 of the silver class. Ryan Borg and Madeline McGee are on row 9 in front of Thomas Inns and Todd Parks, who round out the top 20. Brenda Bonacci is ahead of Giuliano Sinese then on row 11, ahead of Thomas Serlin, Alex Stevens, Jackie Chung 25th, ahead of Alexi Watson in the first all-silver row in the field. Marcus Konitska is alongside Tom McInnes, with Miko Costa Texera, last season's silver class champion, in 29th in front of Matthew Vince. Tristan McLeod 31st in front of Shane McGee, with Mark Keppel, Sam Lighthouse, Chris Little and Nathan Verney. The last driver set a time. Leif Hardy is in the field as well. We'll see whether he starts from 37th in the field. Well, 45 minutes on the clock then, and we're almost ready to go from Navarra. 2 pit stops expected tonight, unless there's a lot of virtual safety car and a lot of fuel saving happening. Conditions out there at the moment, just 21 degrees Celsius on the racetrack, even though it does look like it would be very, very warm indeed. It is still winter time, so not too bad at all at a place that really can shred the tyres apart if indeed the temperatures get up to what they can do in the summer. Let's see what happens tonight, though, in the third round of the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship here from Navarra. 45 minutes of racing gets underway now, and it's a decent start from Ryan Bell, who's going to try and hold on to his pole position off this race start. Potter gets right in behind him. Vella tries to see off Munro down in towards the flat out first corner, in towards the danger point now, turn 2 and 3, and look down the inside there from Munro as Vella just leaves in the window open. Are we all going to get through cleanly for the first time of asking? It looks like it for the most part around the opening sector of the lap.
Kane Ryder, though, has gained a black flag, and I believe that might be for a jump start. So Max Boost number 18 is going to go tumbling down the order very shortly. That's not an ideal start there for Ryder. Jackson Rihanna's on the move as well. He's made up 2 positions thus far. Sits in 6th place now in the yellow machine behind our leaders, but looks like Ryan Bell is already getting away to a fantastic start here as a mechanical black flag has shown up for Craig Edwards. The Fusion Sim Racing number 28 appears to have problems.
Now we'll see a replay of that in a moment, but it doesn't seem to be too big of a contact. Madeline McGee now gets in front of him. It's just in behind him. In fact, Thomas Inns and Giuliano Sinese fight it out. Edwards is definitely damaged a little bit, but nothing too terrible. Bell is now under a lot of pressure from Kieran Potter, who's going to try and take the race lead away into the final turn. He's on the inside line and he's going to get through. But what about Phil Vella? Is he maybe going to take them both in towards the first corner here? Potter's going to be just about clear, and he's going to be boxed in here, is Vella. He's got nowhere to go. He can't go down the pit exit. That will be suicidal. So he's got to stay in behind Potter and also Ryan Bell, who's on his outside now. Oh, he's broken too late. Vella breaks too late there. He gets his line all wrong, and Bell, the one, has to go out wide. He loses another place to Jack Munro as well.
It was a lucky escape for Kieran Potter. He got slammed in the rear there, but fortunately seems to have gotten away with it for the most part. Vella holding on to second. Slowdown having to be served there by Mr. Bell. and he'll be back to 6th place. That promotes Jackson Rihanna here into the top 5, and he still has the lead in his sights. Kane Ryder still carrying that black flag for the jump start there. Will have 3 laps to serve that penalty, but I think that's going to mess up his strategy quite a bit. He'll have to be hoping for a virtual safety car, which is a possibility in these races.
It is, yep. I'll be honest, I think the chance of one around this circuit is almost nil, to be honest. The tarmac runoff around the place, I've done series in the past where there's safety cars enabled, and I'm afraid circuits like this and like Portimao and that style of modern racetrack where there's quite a lot of runoff and quite a long way to the barriers, it's very unlikely that you see incidents. Well, not incidents, but safety cars anyway. Kane Ryder comes into the pit lane, perhaps to serve that black flag and clear it. Ryan Bell has dropped down to 13th now. He had that slowdown, as you mentioned, which dropped him to 6th, but now he's all the way down in 13th position. So it's been a terrible start for the pole sitter. And Kieran Potter is now leading by more than a second. He's becoming a force to be reckoned with this season. Won the last 2 races last week, and he's at the moment leading pretty comfortably in this race too.
Yeah, very nice job from Kieran at the moment to keep things stable at the front. Vela versus Munro for second, and then McConkey and Rihanna in close tow as well. I went back to check what happened to Ryan Bell after he initially lost positions due to the slowdown. Looks like he entered a corner a bit too wide and got onto the grass or the edge of the curb. That spun him around. So an unfortunate mistake from Ryan Bell. Looking a bit further back here to Mark Healy, who's up a couple of positions to 9th place. He's got a long train of cars behind him going all the way back to 18th place of Giuliano Sinesi. For the moment, though, Healy seems to be free from too much pressure. Ryan Borg, I think, is a bit more concerned with Daniel Ackland there.
Yep, looks like it. There's a notable break in the group there, headed by Mark Healy at the moment. You can see the stops all round. Very few drivers have been in, although you can make an early stop and still make it to the end, as everyone should be making 2. This is one of those battles among those who've already made stops here. Some of them tactical, some of them to take their fast repair and get themselves back into the race. But you can get to the end on 2 stops, even pitting on lap number 1. But certainly the extending strategy of only doing 1 stop in the day is going to be out the question. That was a dive down the inside from Jackson Rihanna on Brodie McConkey, who is the points leader at the moment, which is amazing, really, when you think about McConkey's season, because it's been pretty unoffensive, really. Not too much to speak of. 2nd place in the opening round got him a lot of points, and he finished 4th in the 2nd race last week as well, which got him a decent amount of points, and he leads this series by 3 points. Jackson Rihanna, one of those closing and chasing him behind. There's only 3 points between these two at the start of the day.
And Rihanna has been a front runner in just about every championship that FDL's put on recently. Has yet to put a full season together in such a way he can take a title, but he's always there or thereabouts and always looking to fight. Last season, he was it was basically him versus Max Boost for the whole season. Now it looks like Proline have really stepped things up. Meanwhile, here's a replay of lap 1. And I believe this is, oh my goodness, that is, I can't quite pick the car number there, but it looks like one of the Synergy cars is involved in that one, potentially Ackland. Jackie Chung, I think we're hearing, is the car involved there. Quite a big hit. It seems like, though the hits are very light, they balloon into something spectacular.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any replays of what happened to Craig Edwards on the opening lap, because I must say I didn't see any contact myself that actually would have gotten him a meatball flag, but clearly he did get one, as we saw. Munro, oh dear, and Munro pushes Phil Vella off the road down there at turn 3. That was quite a dive from Munro, and he doesn't breathe off the throttle to let him back in again here, Vella. So Munro is going for this, and he's going to dive back underneath him at turn 6. It's a brave place to go down the inside, and he decides against it in the end. It's allowed McConkey and Rihanna to catch up. That was quite a dive. Chris Farrow, meantime, has got a meatball flag as well. Meatballs which are seeming very easy to pick up here tonight.
Yeah, for the record, I went back to check Edwards' first lap, and I didn't see any contact that would have required a mechanical black flag as McConkey now finds his way past Monroe, and Rihanna's going to follow him through there, or at least try to. Good defense from Jack, but maybe pushing Rihanna a bit wide on the exit. Yeah, curious that the cars are so sensitive to the meatball flags. We haven't really seen that at any of the other rounds so far.
No. It's not like there's been an irising update between the last round and this one either. Oh dear, this is lap 1, and one of the spins a bit further down back in the pack, and just a general clear up. I think it's been a pretty good lap 1 actually overall, which is good to see. Well, I've said that too soon, didn't I? That was 2 drivers taking each other off the road through into the gravel at turn 11, I think. And yes, that's a little bit of an awkward one for them. But indeed, as I mentioned, early pit stops have happened earlier on in the day for those with a little bit of damage. So Monroe was able to stop the bleeding at McConkey getting past. He didn't allow Jackson Rihanna to get past him, but it does look like Rihanna wants to try and make this move here, and at the moment is just not quite able to. He's a quarter of a second behind as they come down the straight now towards the hairpin of turn 9. No dive down the inside there, but he's continuing to apply the pressure here for 4th place.
Yeah, and look at the exit that he's getting as well. Manages to dive up the inside and give a bit of a return serve to Jack Monroe, but Monroe gets a fantastic run out of the corner. Finally, Rihanna has passed him, but he really had to work for that one.
He certainly did. 4th place though for Jackson Rihanna, and a nice move forward. What's been happening here too? This is Ryan Bell's incident earlier on. We saw him drop down to 6th position. Oh, and he tries to turn in on the grass and the curb. Ryan Bell spins. He's now back to 11th, which is a couple of places gained on where he comes out here. I believe he was about 13th when he finally came out of all this. Immediately gained one there from the driver in front pitting, but has regained some places so far has Ryan Bell. It's felt like though Kieran Potter has been on the pole, to be honest, given the way he's got the race lead early, and he's driving away from the rest. 2.5 seconds in front of the field at the moment. This is impressive from Potter, and it would be a 3rd win in a row if he can execute it.
Yeah, he's on a great run of form at the moment. Race control starting to work through the first lap incidents and the rest that have happened in the intervening laps. Jet Saragi getting a 10-second post-race penalty for contact with another car. Need to have a good amount of overlap in order to be justified in making a move, and that's the stewards clamping down on that. Probably not the last time we're going to be seeing that notice flash up at the top of the screen for any driver, really, as we keep our eyes peeled on this battle here, which is happening just behind Jet Saragi. Daniel Ackland and Sam Mort. Now, Mort has had an interesting career trajectory in FDL. This is one of the Proline cars ahead of him having a big problem and a huge spin. Looks like that was Giuliano Sinise in the red and silver car that was able to make his way past. But Sam Mort actually won on debut, didn't he, last season at Montreal? Had great pace, was immediately picked up by Team Max Boost, spent the rest of the season with them, but for this season he's decided to change teams, and we haven't quite seen the same level of pace from Sam Mort that we saw from him last season thus far.
No, not yet. His best finish was a 4th place in the sprint race last week, and that's pretty much it, unfortunately, as far as a good result is concerned. Interesting that he's decided to just go to a different team, to Bennett Racing, where he's the strongest of the drivers, you would say, both in the standings and indeed in the reality as well, I would say. But yeah, maybe just wanting to go elsewhere after last season. Ryan Bell, who's up to 10th place meantime in front of Jet Saragi, another one of those Max Boost drivers, as we've said. Bell is picking off these places quite nicely, actually. Shows that, you know, the pace is definitely still in there, but when you give yourself such a disadvantage and such an amount of work to do, it's going to be difficult for Bell without a safety car or anything to get a a strong finish out of this, I would say. Top 10, he can definitely hope for. He's there right now, but as far as even getting a top 5 is concerned, I think that could be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, 45 minutes isn't nothing, but it's still a pretty quick race by a lot of standards. So, you know, the clock is ticking. We're just coming up on 32 and a half minutes remaining in this race, with the pit stops still yet to be done for everyone down to 28th place. Chris Farrow was the most recent pitter, and that looked to be a scheduled pit stop, 4.5 seconds in the box, and it looks like that's about what we'll see from our leaders when they eventually come in. One pit stop expected for this 45-minute race, but if there is a VSC intervention and it lasts for multiple laps, there is half a chance that you might be able to make it all the way to the end without pitting. That is a bit of a long shot, though.
Yeah, indeed. We're told it's possible at least, so we'll just keep it in mind. A number of drivers have already stopped down the back of the field. At the moment, Chris Farrow is the best placed of them, all the way down in 28th though, so we're seeing these guys for the most part go a lot further, and the stop is going to be some point in the next 10 laps or so, if indeed there is going to be one. Miguel Costa-Texeira and Chris Little meantime for 22nd place, looking for the switchback is Miguel Costa-Texeira, and not able to get it. Chris Little has actually gained the most places of anybody, by the way. 13 places gained so far in this race, and that's a pretty good return, down from 35th where he qualified to 22nd so far. There's always some who managed to advance themselves through the field quite a lot. Tristan McLaren and Shane McGee have both managed 11 each as well, so it always seems to happen that some drivers are able to get themselves through the field rather nicely early on, and Chris Little's done that better than anybody else so far, as he looks to maybe lose one of those positions. Miguel Costa-Texeira down the inside gets through into 22nd place.
Nice move. He got alongside early, managed to slow it up in time for the apex. Meanwhile, 5-second time penalty for the 4-1-4, and that is Alexei Watson. Right, once again for cornering rules, I believe. The race control continuing to work through the incidents that have been reported due to crashes and the like, as we check back in with this battle for second place. Phil Vella starting to break away from McConkey and Rihanna, who have raced against each other for quite a long time now. So they'll be very familiar with each other's tactics. Maybe not so much for Jack Munro, relatively new to the top of this field in this particular configuration of the series. So let's see what he can do to latch onto the back of these guys. Here comes the move for Rihanna. Nice and early on the way into turn 1 already alongside, and breaking through turn 2. Very bumpy curb on the inside there. Got to be careful not to induce a front lockup from that, but looked like a very nicely done move in the end there for Jackson.
Yeah, McConkey reacted quite late actually, but Rihanna went to the inside anyway. Managed to get up into third position. Again, 6 places gained, but for goodness sake, why can't he qualify any better? He would win more races, there's no doubt about that, if he could qualify a little bit further up the field. 6 places gained so far from 9th where he qualified. But yeah, that must be a source of major frustration for him in recent weeks. Tristan McLaren has just dropped a few positions in one go and is down to 25th now, and this is why, down in towards turn 3, pretty slow speed this, and getting on the power, you don't see that very often, but there's unfortunately for him a lot of guys. Oh, he's stopped in the middle of the road. Just had to wait for a few more to go past before he could get back going again, but he made the right decision there to wait to rejoin. Should tell you about the penalties, by the way, which have been rolling in steadily over the course of the last few moments. Race control still looking at lap 1. Amazing, isn't it, that what to us looked like a pretty clean lap 1 is actually a major investigation for race control. All sorts of things happening on that opening lap. But Jet Saragi's got a 10-second time penalty for contact with Craig Edwards. That must have been the contact that gave Edwards the meatball. Although it was minor, it has given Saragi a 10-second penalty. And Alexia Watson has gotten a 5-second penalty for an even more minor incident, although Watson reported it. So he's reported it and presumably thought somebody else should get a penalty, Jackie Chung indeed, but actually has got a penalty himself for 5 seconds. And from qualifying, Ryan Borg was caught impeding Danny Davison, and so that is a 10-second penalty to him. Borg has actually just got into the top 10, by the way, with a 7-place gain so far. And unfortunately is going to have to extend out a much bigger gap than that if he's going to keep the top 10 position, because that penalty has already rolled in. But amazing how many race control incidents are being looked at through lap 1, because to us it didn't really look like much was going on that opening lap.
Yeah, I think I'm too used to tin tops, honestly. I'm used to there being a little bit of contact on the opening laps, but of course these are open wheelers, and so it is definitely a non-contact form of racing. These cars are much more sensitive to those minor hits, and the wheels and essential components of the car lie quite exposed to the elements and to other cars. So it makes sense that the drivers and race control will be a little more sensitive to those kinds of contact. Across the line once more, and Jackson Rihanna still chasing Phil Vella and keeping an eye on the lap times here. It looks like Vella and Rihanna have the edge over McConkey and Munro, but only by about a 1/10 of a second or so. And it seems like McConkey is trying to line up something else on Rihanna.
And unfortunately for all of them, Kieran Potter is continuing to extend the lead here to over 3 seconds now. So a virtual safety car or something is going to be needed to pull him back in. Look at the gap he's got behind him now. He is dominating the early season here in the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship. Absolutely dominating. 2 race victories out of 2 last week. Is there going to be a 100% record from this week as well, as Vella's now actually weaving to try and break the slipstream and defend here from Jackson Rihanna. So this is getting difficult for Vella to sustain the pressure he'll be coming under from those 3 in behind him. Rihanna is going to be challenging to make his way through very shortly, you'd think.
Yeah, this is coming up to about the halfway point of the race as well, so potentially time for the drivers to start focusing on their pit stops, but we won't be seeing any for the next lap, at least from this area of the field. It looks like, oh, here we go, one of the Turbo Bros cars here might be Chris Little. Oh my goodness, that is another spin through these very tight corners. You know, these changes of direction that you see at Navarra, they're a lot more extreme and more numerous than we see at a lot of the circuits on this calendar. And it looks like a lot of drivers are having real problems with the sharp apexes of the Spanish circuit.
Yeah, looks like it. As I mentioned before, the circuit very unusual in a lot of ways, very angular from the track map. From what I can see, and doesn't seem to have a particular flow to it. Each corner pretty much existing by itself, and it does make it rather difficult to get around here without mistakes and so on. But luckily there is plenty of tarmac runoff around the outsides of these corners, and not punished generally for the tiniest of mistakes like you can be at some other places. Tom McKinns gets a 5-second time penalty. Another incident that was he protested, by the way, with Alexi Watson. So after McKinns protested, he's now got the 5-second time penalty, and that will drop him down a little bit further as well. That's for lap number 1 as well, by the way. So still plenty of stuff to be looked at from lap 1, which is very, very interesting indeed, based on the, as I say, the lack of incidents really that we saw through those opening corners. But in any case, race control finding plenty to look at. 3.5 seconds for the race lead, and it continues to extend for Kieran Potter. These 4 behind have fallen into a bit of a line in a pattern here, but that's still not helping them to catch the race leader.
Yeah, it looks like Phil Vella's starting to run out of grip in places. You saw how he locked up there into turn 3 and went slightly wide on the exit of the corner. That's going to give half a chance to Jackson Rihanna, but they have to negotiate those really insane bumps through turn 5 and into turn 6, passing through a puff of smoke that presumably was left by a car in front of them. Oh, that's a lot of curb usage on the way in from Vella. He's certainly trying to extend the entry to these corners as much as possible to carry all the apex speed he can, but when you're contending with these sawtooth curbs that line this circuit, it can be very difficult to pull off. You've got to be crazy precise with your steering inputs, and at the moment Jackson Rihanna just seems to be biding his time. He's clearly looking quicker in places, but in this section of the circuit in particular, it seems like Phil Vella is lining up those exits a tiny bit better. Just seems to be more traction there.
Yeah, and also in that part of the circuit, it's quite it's a bit more difficult to overtake there anyway, and that is not helping Rihanna at the moment. Monroe's in pit lane, and so's Mark Healy. So maybe this race is going to start to change now, as everybody's getting a bit tired of the follow the leader business happening here. After 15 laps, we've got Jack Monroe in the pit lane. Healy responds as well. Brian Borg, Dan Ackland, all in the pit lane too. So based on what we've got pre-race, there's still 7 laps or 6 or 7 laps before these guys will end up having to pit. But an interesting earlier stop there from Monroe, especially when you're so far up the field, because you're in danger of getting in traffic. But has he gotten out in front of Bonacci? No. And he's going to be with Konechka as well. Meantime, Rihanna gets past Vella. That's the best way to get some free air and some track position, is to make an overtake. And Jackson Rihanna does in towards turn 6. He's forced to defend into the next corner, but he's got second place.
Yeah, it's a crucial time to make the maneuver there for Rihanna, but he's not out of the woods yet. Phil Vella still getting an excellent exit and squeezing Rihanna as far to the right as he can to compromise his line into turn 10 there, but Rihanna managing to get ahead by the exit, and so I think he'll be able to consolidate that now through this sequence. Does Rihanna decide to pit now, or does he take advantage of the clean air and a lighter car and try to extend it from here? Slightly slow car up ahead of them, Nathan Verney, who's running down in 33rd at the moment, having already taken a stop. Looks like the response is there from Vella coming into pit lane. It's a very difficult pit entry at this place. You've basically got to negotiate a hairpin going uphill on the inside. This is how Rihanna made the move.
Yeah, nice. Oh, nice. It's close enough, I thought. Nice move down the inside, though, through turn 5. Not a conventional overtaking place, actually, but he made it work, and a defence into the right-hander of Vella. So, where's Vella going to be in relation to Monroe? Because Monroe hasn't come out directly in traffic, but Bonacci and Konechka are not that far away. Vella's got a black flag next to his name as well. Has he sped on pit lane or something? Because he's well behind Monroe, and he's still sat there. I think Phil Vella's sped on pit lane, and that's going to cost him over half a minute.
Yeah, it is. It's a real shame. It looks like he hadn't put the pit speed limiter on by the time he got in, and that rolls into the remark that I made about how difficult the pit entry is. You get onto the pit limiter right out of a couple of corners on pit lane entry that you need to negotiate. So Vella mustn't have had a chance to really engage the speed limiter. He accelerated and went all the way up to 84 kilometers per hour at a track where the pit speed limit is just 60.
Well, yeah, that'll give you a penalty, that's for sure. Vella gets out then, Searle and Watson just behind him. That shows you just how far down the field he is now. He locks up indeed, trying to hold on to this position into turn 3 as well. Ryan Bell, meantime, is off the road as McConkey responds. Not sure whether McConkey will be aware of Vella's demise there as he defends towards turn 5. It's all happening, and this is Bell's spin, and more trouble for this afternoon's pole sitter, who now drops down the field and rather sensibly actually comes into pit lane this time round, because the tyres might be a bit warm, coming to cool them down a little bit, and well, you might as well just cut your losses here, come into the pit lane. But that's what McConkey has also done. 7 seconds of a pit stop for him. Is he going to be ahead of Mark Healy and Jack Monroe? McConkey is, I think, and he's in front of Bonacci and Konechka as well, so I'm not sure where he's found all that gap from, but McConkey's found a nice air gap there, and he's in 10th position still.
It looks like he's timed that one perfectly. His Proline teammate Thomas Searle, though, was the car that we just saw spinning a few moments ago, was engaged in a rollicking battle with Phil Vella, which got a little bit elbows out at times, and unfortunately Searle's going to have to try and consolidate something from that. He's another one of the cars that's only just come out of pit lane. So we've got our leaders all the way down to P9, Alex Stevens, and then Brendan Bonacci and Marcus Konieczka, Anthony Bate, Mark Keppel, and Chris Little, it appears, are the drivers that have yet to come into pit lane. So when do we see the response from our leaders? How far can they actually go? All the way to lap 21, it seems. So Kieran Potter will probably extend that all the way out. He's not really under any pressure and has no need to change his strategy on the fly.
Yeah, I'll absolutely carry on until even fuel runs out. And Kieran Potter is extending his lead by doing that. Nearly 5 seconds of an advantage. When we applied the drop week in, Potter would be the championship leader coming into today by a fairly large 44 points. I wonder what his lead would be at the end of this race if we were to apply a drop round as well, because he only got 1 point from the opening round, which effectively means he hasn't got a drop through the season, which could come to haunt him at some point. But if he keeps winning races and you know, finishing ahead of his rivals and so on, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to catch. Now, this has been the problem for Jack Monroe. I feared this right from the moment he decided to make an early stop. You could end up in traffic with those who haven't stopped yet. And Konieczka and Bonacci are fighting for the silver class lead, don't forget. As it stands, Monroe will win this race in the silver class, I would imagine, based on the gap that he's currently got. But he's got to actually work his way past these guys. And look at the gap up to McConkey. 2 seconds behind the driver he was with just a moment ago.
Yeah, McConkey's most recent times not anything to really go on, because they were an outlap out of pit lane as Monroe makes the move on Brendan Bonacci. But looks like recent laps for Monroe have been in the mid to high 1 minute 30s, and amongst Bonacci and Konieczka, who are doing low to mid 1 minute 31s. So a pace difference to McConkey's ultimate pace of about a second, maybe slightly more, which really held up Jack Monroe there.
Yeah, he's a long way behind where he feels he should be, I would imagine. Don Donoghue won't be too far away from him in that case when the pit stops all shake out. As behind, Bonacci and Konieczka go side by side again. Mark Hilly now stumbling across the same problem here. Can he maybe take both into turn 2? He's going to be given the room there. And Bonacci therefore pushed out a long way wide. And Mark Hilly makes up 2 places in 1. And because of his efficiency, Jack Monroe might be on the horizon for the season 3 champion, because that was much quicker in terms of making those overtakes than it was for Jack Monroe. Mark Hilly is on the charge at the moment, looking to turn this rather quiet race really into a decent finish.
Yeah, he made the move decisively and cleanly, and I think it was also helped a bit by presumably Marcus Konieczka braking a little bit later to try and respond and sending himself wide in turn 3. So Hilly managed to get it done, and now we'll see what times he can put down now. Hilly's last lap time was a 1 minute 30.7, let's call it, rounded up. 1:31.1 for Jack Monroe on the last lap, as Kieran Potter and Danny Davison jump into the pit lane. So that's our race leader in, and Davison joining him to try and make up some places. Now Rihanna and Donoghue take point at the front.
Yeah, so here comes Potter, just behind Sanese and in front of Thomas Hinds by the looks of things. So that's a nice gap to be in. But as say, Rihanna carries on. In fact, quite a few drivers have carried on here. But as far as the overall leader is concerned, Potter is going to be leading this race by some distance. We'll see what Rihanna can gain by running a bit longer here. But in these last 15 minutes, as long as there's no safety car, it looks like Potter's on his way to a 3rd race victory in a row here.
Yeah, with the gap to his closest competitors coming out of the lane, it seems pretty good for him. Potter and Hinds are slightly together on circuit, only by about a second or so, so there might be some battling to be had there. Tom Donoghue we were focusing on for just a moment. potentially looking for a solid top 5 if he can keep things together, our league administrator. Car spinning in the background there, meanwhile, as we focused on Hinds, and that appears to be Madeline McGee.
Yeah, it is. And that is unfortunate, dropping all the way down to 13th position, actually, for Madeline McGee, who hasn't stopped yet, so that's an illegitimate position, and therefore it's going to be a big road back after that. Rihanna on his way out the pit lane, and Potter is going to just about get past him before the exits in a moment. There he goes, and Rihanna not that far away. Thomas Hinds can carry on again, by the way, so he's going to do 22 laps here, but Rihanna seems to be a little bit closer than where he was before. The gap still, though, nearly 3.5 seconds, and that's very much in the favour of Kieran Potter at the moment, who in the final 15 minutes has got quite a gap to hold on to here. It's been a strong... I think we're maybe losing... or I'm losing sight a little bit maybe of just what a good start to the season it's been for Jackson Rihanna, though. This would be his 3rd podium in the first 4 races, if indeed he can continue it on to the very end here, as Jet Saragi goes for a spin in his first race for Max Boost through turn 3. But yeah, Rihanna 3 podiums in the first 4 races, and he would be leading the points overall, just not when you add drop rounds for Kieran Potter, I don't think, because Potter's had such a great start to the season. But overall, Rihanna, as I say, has had a very good start to the season, I think.
Yeah, consistent, strong. He's been there where others have fallen by the wayside and picked up the pieces of incidents for the other front runners. Rihanna is closer to Potter largely because of the stop. Rihanna's stop was only 4.5 seconds. Compare that to about 6.3 seconds for Kieran Potter. So Rihanna has been a bit more efficient with getting through the pit lane as Thomas Hinds pits from the front, and that's going to allow everybody here to continue racing as they are. Donoghue finds himself in between Danny Davison and Jack Munro, and they'll be fighting now for what's going to be the final spot in at the top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. So these guys just disconnected from the group they were in, or some of them anyway, from the group they were in before. For second place, it's now for 4th with Davison, Donoghue, Munro, and a second and a half behind is Hilly. Hinds come out to pit lane and gets passed immediately by Dan Ackland for 11th position. So a middling start to the season again from Thomas Hinds, but consistent points being picked up might well get him to another top 5 in this championship, as he's managed on the last couple of Super Formula Light seasons, and indeed the last Formula 4 season, as well, which was back in 2025, some time ago now. So very consistent across the board, and showing that again here as we go on board with Jack Munro here. One of the silver class drivers, and I don't want to speculate, but I suspect might be moved up into gold, and is giving Donoghue a challenge here. That's another mistake from Donoghue in the last 5 minutes or so, and that's a top 5 restored for Jack Munro.
Good recovery, considering the issues he's had. Now he'll set his sights on Davison, and looking at the best lap times from those drivers, it looks like Munro might have a slight advantage over Davison. Potentially consistency about the same between the two of them as well. Back to battle for 10th here. Giuliano Sinesi has had a fantastic run up through the field. He's up 12 places now. It's been a really impressive run through the field for the number 22. He's being chased by Ackland, Hinds and Bell, who are at the moment embroiled in their own fight. And I've just looked down the timing tower. I see that Phil Vella, who was up the front earlier on, has unfortunately still gotten himself a black flag.
Another one. And indeed, to add insult to injury there, that's a 5-second penalty. It's come through from the stewards as well. So this is turning into a bit of a disaster for Phil Vella. Has he reached the incident limit or something?
I think so.
Let's see here. It's pretty easy to do. We'll have a bit of a look at this pit lane, since we haven't done so far. It's a bit unusual. Slightly uphill to this hairpin. Right the way around, and then remember to apply the pit limiter, which he does this time. But the damage already done in this race. Unfortunately, he toes back to pit lane. That's the end of his day. And unfortunately, for the driver who was so close to a title in Season 2 last year in 2025 of the title, He's not had a very good time of things in this series since then, and he becomes our fourth retirement from today, by the way, joining Sam Lightellis at Todd Parks and Matthew Vince out of this race down the back of the field.
Yeah, Leith Hardy did not take to the start either, so we could have potentially had 37 starters for this race, but ultimately there's inevitably going to be a few who run into issues. Getting very close to the back of Thomas Hinz now is Ryan Bell. Remember, the man who started on pole position for this one, and by quite some margin. And Bell currently holds the fastest lap of the race. On the previous lap, he set a 1 minute 30.0. That is qualifying pace, and I think it would likely have been good enough for second place in qualifying if he managed to pull that off. They're fighting ahead as well. Hinz and Ackland trading places, and Bell's going to try to pick up the pieces here, but the left-hander is not ideal for that. On the inside for Ackland, and Bell's going to have to wait a few more corners, I think.
He switches down the inside. Good move from Ryan Bell, and he moves up into 12th position there at the expense of Dan Ackland, who is demoted. That was nicely done from Ryan Bell. He's been very hot and cold in this race here tonight, this meeting tonight. Pole lap earlier on was obviously and significantly better than the rest. Some points he's had incidents tonight, couple of incidents of some of his own making tonight, but some good moves as well. This is further down back in the pack at the hairpin of turn 9 for Jack Monroe, getting past Danny Davison. I think Jack Monroe looks like he's in an older Max Boost livery to me. But obviously it's not the current one, and he's not on Max Boost either. But Monroe passed Davison, and look at the way he's been able to get away from them too. That's nearly a second already there, extended out by Monroe.
Yeah, looks to me like Monroe is much stronger in clean air relative to behind a car than some other drivers in this field. Well, we'll switch back up to Mark Healy as he becomes the next driver to make his way past Tom Donoghue. Looks like late race pace for Donoghue is proving very hard to find. Bit of consistency lacking somewhat from our league owner there in the white car, but still managing to hold on to the back of the slipstream there for Healy and Davison. And you never know. If there's a coming together ahead of him, he'll be right there to pick up the pieces. 6 minutes to go. And at the moment, Kieran Porter enjoys a 5.5 second lead over Jackson Rihanna. It's another 2 seconds back to McConkey. Then Monroe, Davison, Healy and Donoghue not separated by much.
No, not much at all. This is the battle between Bell and Hinz as we go back and have a look at a replay from a little bit earlier. A dive down the inside from Ryan Bell on Thomas Hinz. Some really smart moves made tonight from Ryan Bell. As I mentioned, some not so good ones as well. Some mistakes and so on. So he's not quite going to get his top 10 by the looks of things, but I think there's reasons to be cheerful tonight for Ryan Bell based on the speed that he's had, his first pole position of the season. But I think he'll be a little bit disappointed really this season that he's only got 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s out of the season so far. And the season he's had decent speed, and this is going to be maybe primary among them of disappointing finishes maybe after his qualifying.
Yeah, I think Bell in particular is going to be wondering what might have been out of this one. Yes, we've seen some great moves from him, but he wouldn't have had to pull off those moves if he hadn't fallen down the order in the first place. Once again, it's not a short race, but not a very long one either at 45 minutes, and any mistakes you make early on, very difficult to recover from. If this was a 60-minute race, he might have had a bit more of a chance to make up time. But we'll keep an eye on the battles for the moment. Once again, it's Mark Healy making a move this time on Danny Davison to move himself up into 5th.
Absolutely. Mark Healy is in the top 5. Down in 30th place in the point standings, by the way. He's only accumulated 21 points from the first 3 races, which is extraordinarily low for a driver of his quality. Oh, and that's Madeline McGee off the road, not for the first time tonight, unfortunately. This is into turn 6, where I'm amazed we haven't seen more trouble, to be honest. And that's actually on the way out there through turn 6 into sort of 7. But amazed we don't see more incidents through that section there, because it's a long left-hander there, and you're braking pretty much all the way around it. Change of direction as you're getting on the power. It's amazing to me that we don't see more incidents through there. Maybe it's just easier than it looks, that corner. I've never driven it, but it's just it looks extraordinarily difficult.
Yeah, I have driven this track quite a bit, and let me tell you, it is hard to put the power down efficiently out of there. Meanwhile, it would appear Donahue has made up another position here. He's moved back past Davison, and now Ryan Borg is joining the fight for 5th place. 8 positions up for the number 51. Quite an impressive run so far. But I think the drivers who get out of turn 6 the best, they tend to go a little bit narrower on the exit. I think McGee's issue was she was putting the power down a bit too hard. That kicked her into a slide, and of course muscle memory dictates that you'll just start turning the wheel to the right for turn 7, but if you're doing that when you're in a slide, sometimes the car can grip up out of nowhere and throw you off to the other side, which is exactly what happened to Madeline.
Yep, indeed. So, meantime, that's a bit of a bowl there for Ryan Borg, who is himself up 9 places here so far today. Still biggest mover forward, I think, is Gennaro Sinesi now, who's into the top 10, gaining 12 places. Just a little earlier on had the most, but it's back to 29th again now. There's Sinesi, who looks pretty secure in 10th position. Kieran Potter has just begun another lap here with just over 2 minutes to go. He is 2 laps from the completion of this race and another victory in this Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship. Meantime, Ryan Borg gets past Danny Davison now. So Borg has gained a lot of positions already. There's time for some more here. He gets past Davison in towards turn 1. This is how it happened.
Yeah, so pick up the slipstream down the start-finish straight. Poke your nose up the inside before you get to turn 1, and looked like Davison didn't really fight that one. He sort of recognised that was over very early.
Yeah, he did for some reason. Bit bizarre considering we're so late on in the day, but Borg has got some good speed and is now right back on the back of Tom Donahue as well. Another strong race from Tom, who has not finished lower than 8th this season. Looks like that's going to continue. And that sort of consistency, I mean, to be fair, we always say consistency wins you championships, and it does, but unfortunately for them and guys like Donahue, the consistency of some others is with better positions too, and that makes it rather difficult for guys like Donahue to really challenge for the championship. But he's holding on to 6th place at the moment, and Borg has only got 1 lap to get past him here. The white flag will be waving when they get to the line.
Yeah, 1 lap remaining, and it's already started for Kieran Potter. We'll keep our eyes peeled for the moment here on Borg and Donahue. That's very wide out of the final corner for Donahue. Slightly straighter exit for Borg, as there's the white flag in the air. And this is going to be quite a simple move, I think, for Ryan Borg. Picked up the slipstream very early, is ahead of Donahue before they even get to the apex of turn 1, and he gets ahead in turn 2. Not really worth much of a response there from Donahue. Meanwhile, Sinesi has Ryan Bell all over him, and our pole sitter tries round the outside of turns 1 and 2, but Sinesi defends the position through turn 3. Maybe an over-under and a straighter exit will be what Bell needs to break into the top 10.
Yeah, he's not afraid of making moves into turn 5 and 6 and 7. Watch him switch to the inside and dive here. And Sinesi was waiting for it. That's smart driving there from Gennaro Sinesi, who just kept it tight to there and was waiting for it. Into the next right-hander. There's going to be another chance here. Sinesi defends again, coming in towards turn 8. And he goes round the outside to Bell. Sinesi was expecting the up and under, I think. And so he parked it on the apex, but Bell went round the outside anyway. He gets back into the slipstream now. Down in towards turn 9 he goes. And he's on the outside. He's got nowhere to go there. Sinesi defending very, very well on this last lap of the race. He'll continue to do so as Kieran Potter comes through the final corner right now to win here from Navarra. It's 3 races in a row in the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship for Kieran Potter. What a start to this season he is having. Another victory, this time 8 seconds, nearly his advantage over Jackson Rihanna and Brodie McConkey, who continue their run at the front. Rihanna has now accumulated more points than anybody this season, including that of McConkey, who is now behind him in the championship. Meantime, Sinesi is hanging on from Bell. Can he get the photo finish as well? He just about will do. A great defence, I've got to say, there from Sinesi on the last lap. I'm not sure how many laps that would have lasted if this race were to continue, but he defended valiantly on that last lap, and Ryan Bell couldn't get past him.
I was going to say, call Giuliano Sinese the new Minister of Defence, because, he put his car in all the right places. I was watching that battle all the way through the last lap. He was parking it on every apex. Bell was getting better exits, but he just couldn't take advantage of it because Sinese was right in front of him at every opportunity. Altogether, quite the entertaining finish, but that's a real big statement from Kieran Potter. In the absence of Sebastian Eskandari, it seems another driver has taken the mantle of dominance.
Absolutely. Interesting to see what happens when Eskandari returns, but it's going to be very, very difficult for him to win the title from here. He did win the opening round at Spa, but I think Kieran Potter is a driver who would absolutely give him a run for his money at the moment if these current performances are anything to go by. Well, the final driver's just going to make their way over the line in just a moment, and then we'll have the race results from maybe a quieter day at Navarra than what we had at Miami last week, or indeed Spa the week before. But it's Ryan Bell who takes that's qualified results. I thought that was weird. It's indeed Kieran Potter who ended up taking the race victory here from tonight. In the end, 7.8 seconds the eventual gap over Jackson Riada. Brody McConkey rounds off the top three with Jack Monroe winning in the silver class. Silver class will be evaluated and maybe redistributed at the end of tonight, with Mark Hilly rounding off the top five. Ryan Borg was sixth in front of Don, who held off Davison at the end. Sam Moore and Giuliano Sinese round out the top 10. Ryan Bell just missed out on the top 10 there, as we saw in that battle. Thomas Inns finishes 12th as he gets and stays in front, indeed, of Dan Ackland towards the end. Jet Saragi in his first race for Max Booth finishes 14th in front of team Chris Farrow. Then it's Alex Stevens, Craig Edwards, who recovers from his meatball flag to finish in 17th position. Marcus Gnitska, Anthony Kane Ryder round out the top 20. Brendan Bonacci is 21st in front of Madeline McGee, who had a couple of spins throughout that race. Shane McGee is 23rd. With Jackie Chung over a minute off the victory. Mark Heppel, Alexi Watson, Tristan McLaren, Miguel Costa Texera, Chris Little were all within the lead lap. Thomas Searle, Nathan Verney, Tom McKinns were one lap down, with the non-finishers including Phil Vella, Sam Light-Ehlers, Bob Parks and Matthew Vince, with Leif Hardy not starting the race. Let's have a chat then to Kieran Potter, who joins us now, the race winner tonight from Navarra. Kieran, congratulations on race victory tonight. It wasn't the sort of lights to flag pole position, gaining every point possible sort of victory for you tonight, but it was comfortable in the end as well. Just talk to us how comfortable you were around this circuit, and whether it was quite as easy as you seem to make it look.
To be honest, this track's is probably one of the tougher ones I've driven. I don't know, it's not really easy to stay consistent, and a lot of the curbs will just auto spin you. So yeah, not even though the gap might have shown that it could have been an easy race, it definitely wasn't. Like, it's not the most enjoyable race ever.
In terms of this season so far, how do you assess how it's gone, with the opening round obviously getting a pole for yourself, but in the end finishing way down at Spa? 2 wins last week, 1 win this week, and when we adjust points with a drop round, you'd be the championship leader by some distance. How do you assess how these first 3 rounds have gone, taking all that into account?
Yeah, a bit disappointed with the hardware issues in round 1, but not much can do about it now. So I'm happy with the way it's gone. I just got to keep doing my best, really, and see how we progress from here.
Well, good luck for the remainder, of course. But for now, congrats on the win tonight, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. That's Kieran Potter, who wins the race tonight at Navarra. Jackson Brown hasn't joined us yet, but hopefully he will in a moment. In the meantime, we'll chat to Brody McConkey, who finishes in 3rd place tonight. Brody, welcome in. Congratulations on a 3rd place finish for you tonight. As a battle of ever-changing people around you, really, it seemed. Likes of Jackson Rihanna moving up from behind you, Ryan Bell moving backwards through the group and to back behind you again from in front of you, and all sorts happening throughout that race. So how did you feel it went, and how pleased are you to end up on the podium?
Yeah, mainly I was just trying to keep it clean more than anything. There was a few times where I think it was Rihanna and Phil Valla were getting pretty dicey, so I was pretty happy just to sit back in that, and I decided to pit early. Just took a set of tyres because from the testing we did or in the practice, the res were down to about 55%, but for some reason we're only down to 80% in that. But just ran out of tyre at the end. Sorry, didn't have quite enough time to run down Rihanna at the end. We were gaining, but just not fast enough. But yeah, it's getting close in the championship now as well. I think even Kieran's going to be right up there now. So between myself, Jackson and Kieran, it's getting pretty tight.
Yeah, I think in terms of total points between the three of you, there'll be less than 10 points, separating the three of you. Not sure in what order and indeed what the individual gaps might be, but how pleased are you to start the season in this way? I think, from what we've seen from you in the past is, good race performances, but never a season strung together. Are you pleased that this is at least 3 rounds at the beginning? Long way to go, of course, but at least 3 rounds at the beginning strung together quite nicely.
Oh, for sure. I think we've had a mixture of good and bad highlights throughout the seasons. Last season we had a lot of equipment issues, so pretty much just sat most of it out because I didn't want to sort of cause issues to people around me or crash anyone out due to issues which happened in the past. But we knew from even season 1, I think we got a win. It might have been season 2 in the rain at Fuji. So if everything goes right and we can qualify maybe a little bit better, I know that we can sort of be in there for the hunt at the end. So it's really good to start the season this way, and just hopefully we can continue it going forward. And I think just the way to win the championship is to sort of just keep finishing races at this point. Can't really afford to have a DNF, especially while Eskandari's gone. So no, really happy.
Well, congratulations on finishing in 3rd place tonight from Navarra, and thanks for chatting to us at the end of the race as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. That's Brody McConkie finishing 3rd place here tonight. So far, Jackson Riard hasn't joined us, so we'll just hold off for a moment. But Reece, I think that was perhaps the quietest of the 3 rounds we've seen so far. But expect that really from a circuit of this nature, I think. Drivers didn't seem to hate it so much in terms of a track to drive, but they recognise that it's a very, very tough place to come, and that they'll be pleased to get that one behind them now and go on to some more recognisable circuits, of which the last 5 are all, I think, much more recognisable.
Yeah, I think Kieran Potter hit the nail on the head when he said that the curbs can sometimes auto spin you, even in tin tops and cars with softer suspension. Those curbs are especially brutal here. But I think it was good for us up in the broadcast booth to get a little breather, so to speak, after the chaos of Spa and Miami. We will be going to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for the 4th round of the season, a track that is high speed pretty much all the way around with only one slow corner. It's certainly going to be interesting to see how they tackle that.
Yeah, I've got to say, I'm not sure I've ever seen open wheel racing through there, or certainly not very often, because it's a sports car racing circuit, rather than a stock car racing circuit, indeed, in the past as well, sometimes. So, very interested to see how these open wheelers, these Super Formula lights, go around there. But from Navarra, that is just about it from us here tonight. Thanks to everybody for tuning in for this quick look at the championship standings at the end of the day. And indeed, I'm not sure those points are entirely correct, because when we saw the race results, it said 50 points for the race winner. Of course, it's 100 for the race winner in this race. But in any case, the gap between the front 3 should be about 10 points, with Jackson Riard leading the championship. I suspect Kieran Potter might have jumped ahead of McConkie, but we'll wait and see on that when we arrive next week. Of course, when you apply the drop week, you realise that Potter is a long way in front of the rest, perhaps even as much as 80 points ahead of the rest. But he doesn't really have any drop score to fall back on, so the rest of the season will be filled with peril for him, which is going to make the tension high right to the very end. Hope you can join us next week for that round indeed at Mosport. It should be a good round of this championship once again. 15-minute sprint race followed by a 30-minute feature in next week's race. Same time, same place. Make sure you join us for that here on the TrackSpotTV. For now, I've been Ian Leary alongside Reece Gardner until we're back next week with the next round of this championship, bringing us to the halfway point at Mosport. It's goodbye for now.